the doppelganger always sort of appears to kind of teach us something about ourselves, you know? And coming from the left, like, what do you feel like we can learn from these right-wing grifters,
Mm.
QAnon, you know, anti-vaxxers, this shadow world, as you call it? You know, one of the things that I love is when you talk about how big they dream, how they're like, look, at least they want to like arrest all the pedophiles, like, you know, and they really think that's going to happen. Democrats aren't even convinced that like Trump is going to see the inside of a prison cell, let alone face any music for all the crimes he's committed. So
Let
I
alone
love,
believe in the International Criminal Court. Yeah,
right.
like they have a vision for justice. It's this sort of cartoon Hollywood. Yeah, white hats are gonna where there's gonna be a great storm. You know, it's all of these ridiculous cliches, but at least they have an idea for
Right.
what for how they're gonna have some accountability, and often there isn't that. Even on the left, really. So maybe that is part of what matters if we start thinking about international humanitarian law, and accountability for these war crimes. Like maybe we have a vision for justice, and you know, this is I guess my big takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people might have heard me say this before, that the conspiracy culture get the facts wrong but the feelings right, and one of the feelings that they're tapping into is a desire to take on the elites, is a desire to, you know, have some kind of justice. They're offering them a sort of joke script, and they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But it's something. It isn't just sort of having the right analysis on X.
Right.
It is actually some sort of a plan.
Do you mean X like in the platform formerly known as Twitter, or do you mean
Yeah.
like X like just, oh
No,
God.
I mean, I meant Twitter. I'm
Damn.
experimenting with not calling it Twitter. I don't know how
I don't
long we're
like
going to be
it. I
able
don't
to
like
just
it.
be like, okay, like how long
No,
we're going
but
to be like, my big stand is I'm not going to call it X, but I'm still going to use it.
it's bold. That
Yeah.
is, look. Okay, so because with that then,
Mhm.
I think it is interesting because you didn't really address it in the book, but coming from the left, my mind reading about, you know, the ways that the anti-establishment, you know, the feelings, the anti-elite politics has like also impacted what I would call kind of the dumb left, and the ways that they have reared their heads and become the doppelgangers that they would have, you know, hated years and years and years ago. I mean,
Who are you
someone who I
thinking
think is,
of?
well,
Name some
someone,
names,
let's do
Francesca.
it. Well, I mean, first of all, Jimmy Dore, who I don't think
Yeah.
was ever smart, but he
Mm.
came, you know, he came after me, although nothing of this is about me, but the guy's been tapping into the anti-vax stuff.
Yeah.
Used to think, you know, he used to call himself a progressive, all that. It's very funny because he does comedy shows, and like I heard stories that like his wife will also do a little bit of stand-up, and she'll like make fun of anti-abortion folks, and everyone in the audience is like, we are anti-abortion folks. What are you doing? You know, so it's like
Okay.
walking this line where they don't really know. It's like this, again, bullshit populism. Then you've got someone like Glenn Greenwald, who I think, you know, for lack of a better term, Russia gate, but the Russia stuff really, I mean, his head did his head in. And to say, like, look, Jimmy Dore got money from an Assadist organization. This is not nothing, but
Mhm.
between the Syrian war, between the, you know, sort of Putin's, you know, election meddling, these folks just
Mhm.
became completely the opposite, or were revealed to what they truly are, which maybe are a bunch of neocons, like in Glenn Greenwald's case. Then you have, you know, strange bedfellows like Code Pink teaming up with Marjorie Taylor Greene
Oh,
to
yeah.
stop the war in Ukraine, um, which is very sad, you know, as someone who used to admire Code Pink. So what do you make of that? Because I think some of them are saying, well, look, the anti-establishment folks shouldn't all just go to the Steve Bannons. I want to bite off that apple, and everything is a personal branding and clickbait exercise in this late stage capitalist, you know, influencer hellhole we live in.
Mhm.
So why not?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. And I mean,
yeah,
a lot of this sort of went particularly haywire after the Bernie campaign collapsed, you know,
yeah,
where I think there was this, like Bernie provided a kind of a container, uh, where, and I'm not saying there wasn't, you know, bad behavior in the Bernie campaign. But I do think that because there was a sort of a common goal, and also this kind of ethos of not me, us, that it contained some of these worst angels for a while. Okay, we can all think of exceptions to this, but
I think
I
Trump's
just
election, fuck Glenn Green. They were all banking on Hillary. They were so excited
yeah,
they were just going to be
yeah.
able to be like anti-neolib, anti-neocon Hillary. Ooh, Hillary, Hillary, Hillary. And then Trump wins. And suddenly we're all in unison. We're all together against fascism. And their brand is contrarianism. So they're like, ew, fuck that. I'm not going to join with you guys. I'm going to have a different tack. And then that is like, that gets you eyeballs, that gets you clicks if you're not saying the thing. Anyway, but
Yeah, I mean, and then I think that, so I think some of it was that moment where, okay, well, if we don't have a container, then we're all just going to just try to get the clicks for our podcasts, and and just whoever has the most extreme position. So I think that I remember that collapse very clearly when suddenly it just all splintered,
yeah,
and everyone's just attacking each other and AOC.
right,
Um,
right.
but
Debate me.
but I do think that you're right about the Trump moment, and also just come just to bring it full circle around like why we need to have principles that we hold ourselves to, like legible principles that other people can understand. What do we stand for? We don't just define ourselves by who our enemies are, and just
Mhm.
whatever they are, we are the opposite. Whoever
Right.
they hate, we like. And I think some of what you're describing and some of what has gone haywire on the left is just this sort of like an analysis that is just anti-US empire, which a lot of the time will not steer you wrong, but sometimes it will. Sometimes it will, because the US is not the only bad actor on the world stage.
Right.
So if that is your single orienting politics, then it's going to take you into some dangerous places. And there's a really, really ugly history of this on the left. This is not just something we can blame on the attention economy, because the left has taken wrong turns before. And
No. When? Name one time.
so
No, it's true. And also, I do think that it's easy on the internet. It's easy to be unmoored from those principles. And there is no, when you do not come from any kind of movement space, you're not necessarily accountable. And also, there's a real conflation of journalist and forward facing, pundit and the left and any
yeah.
kind of movement. And often those things are actually fairly disjointed. And that
I mean,
really
one thing I will say,
yeah.
Francesca, because I have to run, and I think you're gonna bash Hillary without me, but even without me there, I agree with you. I'm there with you in spirit, but I do have to go take my kid, home from school. But I think, like, we are just in such a horrific moment, and the wave of McCarthyism that is coming for Palestinians and anybody engaged in Palestinian solidarity is so intense
Yeah.
that it is another example where we have to be able to appeal to principles, including a stronger defense of freedom of expression than I think we've seen on the left in a while, right? This is like,
Yes.
I think we've gotten too sloppy, and I think we're just a little bit too much like my team good, their team bad. And when people are getting fired and books are getting banned, we're not going to win these battles because by making an argument about the books being good or that
True.
person having said a good thing. We're going to win these battles by appeals to freedom of speech, academic freedom, some kind of values that maybe we have taken a little bit too lightly in recent years.
Well, to
So
his credit, Glenn Greenwald has said it is ridiculous to ban like any critics of Israel, like, um,
yeah,
what's her face? Marsha Blackburn wants to do from the Senate. Like, and so you're seeing some of these folks who sort of like fell off into the free speech,
mhm.
absolutist ether come like actually say the right things now, specifically when it comes to Palestine, because we all knew that this was the issue,
Exactly. We
that
all
if you
knew.
truly say anything
Yeah,
about, you will, yes, be blacklisted and
yeah.
silenced and fired. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.